Good morning, students. So we'll continue with epithelial tissues today. In the last lecture, we have finished with the nervous tissue. Okay. Let us break up the word epi, which means upon, and thelia. Thelia means to grow. So the meaning of the word epithelia is it's a tissue which grows on some other tissue. That is what you mean by epithelia. So epithelial tissues, they grow on other tissues, as a result of which the epithelial tissues will form a covering over many other tissues of your body. So epithelial tissues, they cover the body surfaces. What do epithelial tissues do? They cover the body surfaces. So when I say they cover the body surfaces, they cover the external free surface as well as internal free surface of an organ. So listen to this point, that they cover the external as well as the internal free surface of an organ. So let us take the example of this particular organ, that is your stomach. The wall of the stomach is muscular. Now do you see these red cells that I am drawing over here? Can I say they cover the external free surface of the stomach? Likewise, see these blue color cells? So now can I say they cover the internal free surface of the stomach? So that is why the epithelial tissues, they cover the external and the internal free surface of an organ. Take another example of, say, the human heart, and you will find the epithelia covering the external free surface as well as the internal free surface. Now when the epithelia covers the internal free surface of an organ, the epithelia usually faces the body fluids. When the epithelia covers the internal free surface of an organ, it faces the body fluids. Like in this face, it will face, like in this particular place, it will face the food and the water that is there. Here it will going to face the blood. So that is why the NCERT mentions that the epithelial tissues, when they cover the internal free surface, they usually face the body fluids. Okay, right? I hope you followed this, everybody. So epithelial tissues, they grow on other tissues. They cover the external and the internal free surface of an organ, as well as they cover the free surfaces of an organism. So your outermost organ of your body, that is covering your entire body, is your skin, and that shows the presence of an external layer of epithelia. So that is why we say it's a covering tissue. It covers the free surfaces of an organ as well as it covers the free surfaces of an organism. Now let's continue forward and let us discuss some of the properties of the epithelial tissues, which include some interesting properties of epithelia which make it strikingly different from the other tissues that are there in your body. Like as I have told you in the previous lectures, that a tissue is a group of cells performing a common function, having a common origin, and the space between the cells is called as the intercellular space. So in a normal tissue, you will find that there are many cells which are scattered, and in between the cells there is a lot of intercellular space, and these cells are held together. Yes, tell me what holds the cells together? Correct, it is the matrix. So that is the basic characteristic feature of the different tissues that are there in your body, that it shows the presence of a lot of intercellular space and it shows the presence of a matrix. Unlike the epithelia, where you will find that the cells are closely packed, as a result of which the intercellular space is going to be very less. So it has got very less intercellular space. सो डेफिनेटली अगर इंटरसेलुलर स्पेस कम है तो मैट्रिक्स भी क्या होगा? कम होगा. सो इट इज लेस इंटरसेलुलर स्पेस एंड मैट्रिक्स as compared to the other tissues of your body. So that is why we say that epithelial tissues are those tissues where the cells are compactly placed. The cells of the epithelia are compactly placed. The cells of the epithelia are compactly placed means that the epithelial tissue has very less intercellular space and it shows the presence of a very less amount of matrix. Now dear students, just like you are sitting on a bench right now and the bench is supporting you, right? Similarly, these epithelial cells, they are being supported by a membrane, and this membrane is called as the basement membrane. So what supports the epithelial cells? The basement membrane. The basement membrane is non-cellular. So it's a non-living membrane. So if I ask you whether my nails, they have living cells or non-living thing, my hairs, do they have any living cells? The answer is no. Same way, the basement membrane is non-cellular and it is synthesized by the cells themselves. A part of the basement membrane is synthesized by the cells themselves. So when the epithelial cells are seen with respect to the basement membrane, the part of the cells which is on the basement membrane or near the basement membrane is called the basal end of the cell, and the other top part or the free end is called as the apical end, and the sides, these are known as the lateral sides. So just imagine that my palm is the basement membrane. So you got this marker which is the epithelial cell. So the part which is close to the basement membrane is the basal end. The top end is called as the apical end. So basement membrane is cellular or non-cellular? It is non-cellular. And it consists of two layers, which in this particular diagram I have shown them as cross lines and dots. So the part of the basement membrane which is close to the cells is called as the basal lamina, and the part of the basement membrane which is far away from the cells, and the part of the basement membrane which far from the cells is called as the fibrous lamina. So we've got two types of lamina, the basal lamina and the fibrous lamina. The basal lamina is made up of glycoproteins, that is proteins along with carbohydrates is called as the glycoproteins, and the fibrous lamina is made up of chemicals like high hyaluronic acid, collagen fibers, etc. So this is the composition of the basal lamina and the fibrous lamina. The epithelial tissues are avascular tissues. Now what do you mean by avascular tissues? Avascular means, okay, have you heard the term vascular before this? In plant biology we use the term vascular for tissues like xylem and phloem. Xylem, which is responsible for conduction of water, phloem, which is responsible for conduction of food, together they are called as the vascular tissues. So xylem and phloem are vascular tissues in the case of plants. So when I say vascular, इसका मतलब ये होगा कि कोई ऐसा टिश्यू जो खाना पीना देता है. तो ह्यूमन बॉडी में कोई ऐसा टिश्यू है जो अपने सेल्स को खाना पीना देता है? हाँ, है ऐसा टिश्यू. कौन है वो? ब्लड है. सो जब हम कहते हैं कि इट इज अवैस्कुलर, इट मींस दैट दिस पर्टिकुलर टिश्यू does not have a blood supply of its own. उसका खुद का ब्लड सप्लाई नहीं है. मतलब ये अगर एपिथेलियल टिश्यूज है तो इनके पास खुद का ब्लड सप्लाई नहीं है. तो फिर एक बेसिक क्वेश्चन हमारे दिमाग में आएगा कि अगर इनके पास ब्लड सप्लाई नहीं है तो उनको अपना खाना पीना कहां से मिलता है फिर? सो लुक एट दीज क्रॉस लाइन्स एंड इमेजिन देम टू बी दी connective tissue. Now this connective tissues are vascular. मतलब they have their own blood supply. So the epithelial tissues, they receive their nourishment, water, glucose, khana, pina from the underlying connective tissues, where the nutrients flow by diffusion, that is from the areas of higher concentration to the areas of lower concentration. So the nutrients will flow from the areas of higher concentration to the areas of lower concentration via diffusion. So it does not have a blood supply of its own, so it gets its nourishment from the underlying connective tissues by the process of diffusion. It gets its nourishment from the underlying connective tissues by the process of diffusion. Any advantage can you think of, children? Why the epithelial tissues are avascular? Because if you find a tissue which is covering the external surface of your body, और आपको if you get a little bit of a scratch, you don't bleed. It is a tissue which is subject to wear and tear, right? So being avascular helps it a lot. It does not cause loss of blood if there is a slight tear in that particular tissue. Okay? But then what is the disadvantage that the epithelia gets? It cannot grow to very tall heights. Because as it starts growing taller, the top layer will become dead. In the case of skin, it is advantageous. Because when the top layer of your skin are dead, if the bacteria and germs and fungus try to sit and eat anything from your skin, they don't get anything to eat. Because already it's a dead layer. It is a vascular layer. Skin का top वाला cells जो रहते हैं, वो top layer of epithelia तक nourishment नहीं पहुंचता, धीरे धीरे वो necrosis हो जाता है, उनका death हो जाता है. Okay? So there is a great advantage of them being avascular. There is a single example of stria vascularis, which is an example of an epithelial tissue that is vascular. But you remember this general rule that they do not have a blood supply of its own, and they get its nourishment from the underlying connective tissues by the process of diffusion. Then the apical end of the epithelia, this apical end of the epithelia shows different modifications. The apical end of the epithelia shows different modification. Like look at this modification, kids. This is the basement membrane and this is the epithelial cell. No modification on the apical end. Now look at this epithelia. Oh, it shows the presence of finger-like projections. A finger is called as villi. Now in order to observe this villi, you need to use a microscope. So they are called as microvilli. And what is the advantage of having this microvilli? Just imagine there is a substance called as X. Who will be able to take in more amount of X? Cell A or cell B? It will be cell B, because the cell B, okay, has a greater, yes, it has a greater surface area. Then the other modification of the epithelia is the presence of hair-like structures which are called cilia, which arise from the basal body, and the basal body is a modified centriole. Remember that it was asked previously in the PMT exams that the basal body is a modified dash, it's a modified centriole that results in the formation of the cilia, and the movement of the cilia will help in the movement of substances over it. So the second modification is the presence of cilia. The third modification, which we will not use in this chapter but in neural coordination later on, I will be telling you that there are certain epithelial cells which show the presence of stiff projections, and these stiff projections are called stereocilia. The stiff projections are called as stereocilia. So you have got microvilli, cilia and stereocilia, which are the different modifications which are found on the apical end. So these are the properties of epithelial tissues. I said that epithelial tissues, epi means upon, thelia matlab to grow. So they are growing on the surface of other tissues. They cover the external and internal free surface of an organ as well as external free surface of the body. When they are covering the internal free surface, they face the body fluids, and these are the different properties of epithelial tissues. And now we'll continue with the classification of the epithelia, and we'll be starting with squamous epithelium.
Okay, students. So are we clear with the properties of the epithelia? Yes. Okay. So now let us do a very small classification of the epithelial tissue. एक छोटा सा classification करते हैं, and we'll come to know what are the different types of epithelial tissues. Okay. Epithelial tissues are broadly classified into two types. Look at this. Can I say the cells are single layered?
Yes.
I look over here. Can we say that the cells are many layered?
Yes.
Yes. So when the epithelium is single layered, it is called a simple epithelium. And when it is many layered, we call it as compound epithelium. So epithelium is of how many types? Two types. Two basic types. That is simple epithelium and compound epithelium. Now, the simple epithelia is further classified into different types. Like we have got simple squamous epithelium.
Yes.
सुना होगा ना आप लोगों ने? Simple squamous epithelium. Then you have a simple cuboidal epithelium. Then we have a simple columnar epithelium. We have a simple ciliated epithelium. A simple glandular epithelium. A simple germinal epithelium. A simple sensory epithelium. And a simple pseudo stratified epithelium. So what are the different types of epithelia, bachcho? Squamous, cuboidal, columnar, ciliated, germinal, sensory, pseudo stratified. Out of which your syllabus does not cover pseudo stratified. Okay? Directly in this chapter, the NCERT is not going to mention germinal. But in 12th standard, when I talk about reproduction and mention the testis and the ovaries, at that time we'll require what? Germinal. When we'll talk about receptors, sensory. I hope you're getting my point, Bachcho.
Yes.
Okay. I think in school you must have been told that the cuboidal epithelia can be with the presence of microvilli or they can be what, Bachcha? Without the presence of microvilli. So cuboidal can be with microvilli, without microvilli. Same with columnar, Bachcha. It can be with microvilli or they can be simple, that is without microvilli. Got my point?
Yes.
The ciliated epithelia can either be ciliated columnar or it can be ciliated cuboidal. Okay? Ciliated can either be ciliated columnar or ciliated cuboidal. In compound epithelium, either the epithelia can be stretchable. You understand stretchable?
Yes.
Can be stretchable. Or it can be non-stretchable. When it is stretchable, it's a type of epithelium called transitional. Now, when you read the NCERT text, you will not find it there. But when we will be talking about a chapter called excretion osmoregulation, urinary bladder, वो टाइम पे ब्लैडर का स्ट्रेच जो है ना उसके यहाँ पे यूज किया जाएगा. कौन सा एपिथेलियम? ट्रांजिशनल. ठीक है चलो.
Yes.
Then the non-stretchable ones, it can be compound squamous, compound columnar, compound what was it? Cuboidal. ये दो देखो नहीं पढ़ना. Last one. ठीक है. I will be talking about squamous में दो types. One is called as keratinized and the other is called as non-keratinized. Keratinized is important there.
Yes.
Okay. So for every tissue, I am going to talk about its location, its histology. I hope my class knows what the meaning of the word histology. What is histology? Very good. And function. At home, you draw the diagram of that particular tissue from the NCERT, and if it is not there in the NCERT, definitely from our notes. Sabja?
Yes.
One more thing I like to mention is, okay, when you are writing this, use a double page. ऐसा. ठीक है? तो अपना जो होगा कैसे जाएगा? Name of the tissue, histology, location, function, diagram. पहले क्या आएगा? Squamous. फिर उसके नीचे cuboidal. फिर उसके नीचे columnar. Next page पे वहाँ ऐसा. ठीक है? So before the NEET exams, you don't have to search. अरे squamous का किधर location है? Columnar का किधर location? At a glance सबका location तुमको मालूम रहेगा.
Yes.
समझा? क्योंकि what I've seen is over years where that tissue is located, where the epithelia is located, इसके ऊपर काफी MCQs are. So I don't want you to keep on searching in the last moment. So better we have it one place. समझ ला?
Yes.
So rather than writing in a paragraph manner, it is better we make it in a chart column. ठीक है?
Yes.
हाँ इतना करना पड़ेगा. So the first tissue बच्चा simple squamous epithelium. What's that? Simple squamous epithelium. Let us talk about histology first. Some basic points that you already know. That it is single layered. The cells are what bacha? Closely packed with little or no intercellular space and bed. ये खुद से लिखेंगे ना तुम लोग?
Yes.
वो वाला point?
Yes.
It has very little or no intercellular space and matrix is absent.
Close to.
बराबर है?
Yes.
Shall I continue?
Yes.
They are present on a membrane. What is the membrane called, bachalo?
Basement.
Basement membrane. Then case. Now I'm looking at the tissue under the microscope. Under the
Microscope.
I'm having a top view, dorsal view. ऊपर से देख रहा हूँ, dorsal view. Okay, top view. And I find that these cells. Okay. My question to you guys is: look at the margin of the cell. Are you looking here or on the sides?
Side.
Is it a regular margin or irregular margin?
Irregular.
It's a zigzag है ना?
Yes.
So you'll say that they show the presence of which type of margin, which are
Irregular. Regular.
irregular margin. Did my class follow?
Yes.
How is the margin?
Irregular.
And they show the presence of a nucleus. Is it peripherally placed nucleus or a centrally placed nucleus?
Central.
Okay, but what is it there in the center? It's a central nucleus. Ayana?
Yes.
So it looks like a pavement. That is why it is also known as a pavement epithelium. Okay, what does a pavement mean? Footpaths with tiles. तो यूरोप के फुटपाथ माने ओपन फुटपाथ जिसमें खड्डे होते हैं, लोग रहते हैं, तो वैसे वो लोग के फुटपाथ में क्या रहता है? टाइल्स रहता है चलने के लिए, लोगों को चलने के लिए. ठीक है, तो वो कैसे दिखता है? टाइल्स जैसा दिखता है, इसलिए उसका नाम क्या दे दिया वो लोगों ने? पेवमेंट एपिथेलियम. अपने फुटपाथ अगर देखते तो देते थे उसको पेवमेंट देते थे, नाम था, इतना हिम्मत नहीं करते. ठीक है, तो what do you call the epithelium? Pavement epithelium. Why do you call pavement epithelium? Because the cells fit into each other like tiles, and they give the appearance of a pavement. That is why it is called pavement epithelium. Huh? Where are they located? They are located at many different places of your body. अलग अलग विभिन्न स्थान पे. Huh? But what are the important locations that you will remember? अच्छा बच्चों, ये histology का point था ना? हाँ, इसको left shift मार देना तुम लोग. लिखे हुए को तो नहीं कर सकता है वैसा. तुम लोग लिखते हो उसको ऐसे लिखेंगे. ठीक है, कैसे लिखे? थोड़ा दिमाग लगाते ना आप. AEE वालों जैसा. यहाँ लिखेंगे क्या? फंक्शन. और इधर लिखेंगे क्या? हिस्टोलॉजी. But while you guys write, आप हिस्टोलॉजी वैसे लिखना. पहले हिस्टोलॉजी, because that is the way it is. Okay? Location, histology, function, and diagram. बरोबर ना?
Yes.
Let us talk about the location. Have you heard of Bowman's capsule?
Yes. Yes.
सब लोग हैं, लोग एक आध जन नहीं मतलब. अच्छा जो नाम होते तुम लोग क्या ब्रश वश करके नहीं आता? लोग कुछ बोलता ही नहीं तुम लोग. ये साइड वाला लोग ऐसे बैठे रहते जब देख रहे मुझे. हाँ, सब लोग ब्रश करके आते हो ना?
Yes.
तो वो मुंह खोलो ना. यस, नो, सुना है, नहीं सुना है. हाँ, सुना है. What I'm talking about? Bowman's capsule. ये आपके ब्रेन में होता है. नहीं. नेफ्रॉन मतलब न्यूरॉन ना? नेफ्रॉन अलग है. कुछ भी क्या नेफ्रॉन? किडनी में रहता है. स्कॉलर. So ये कौन है आपकी? किडनीज. और किडनी के अंदर एक नेफ्रॉन है. देखो मैं नेफ्रॉन ड्रॉ कर रहा हूँ. कौन है ये? नेफ्रॉन है ना? नेफ्रॉन. Now Look, the nephron has a cup-like structure. This is a cup-like structure, and this cup-like structure is called as the Bowman's vocap. We call it as the Bowman's capsule. So, पहला location सबको समझ में आ गया? That it is a part of your Bowman's capsule. किडनी तो बहुत बड़ी है ना, अगर किडनी काटेंगे डायरेक्ट पिन पॉइंट जाना हेडशॉट ले बराबर. क्या बोलेगा? Bowman's capsule. बराबर है? Yes. There it is located. ये तो पक्का पता होगा आपको. इतना होशियार बच्चा लोग हैं. Alveolus of lungs.
Yes.
Lungs तो पता है?
Yes.
किधर है दिखाओ जरा. इधर है. दोनों दिखा ना ऐसे. एक जगह कैसा रहेगा? Okay. So the lungs show the presence of air sacs, है ना? Yes. And these air sacs are called alveolus. लॉजिक है बच्चों लोग. यहाँ से गैसेस एक्सचेंज होने वाला है. So ये जो बाउंड्री है उसको डिफ्यूजन बाउंड्री बोलते हैं. मतलब पर्टिकुलर बाउंड्री थ्रू व्हिच गैसेस एक्सचेंज या कोई भी एक्सचेंज टेक्स प्लेस ऑफ मटेरियल उसको क्या बोलते हैं? डिफ्यूजन बाउंड्री. है ना? जैसे इमेजिन करो ये वॉल है. I could go through the wall and come back. इस तरीके के साथ. तो हम लोग इस वॉल को क्या बोलेंगे? डिफ्यूजन बाउंड्री. अब मेरे लिए डिफ्यूजन बाउंड्री कौन है? वो दरवाजा है. क्या नहीं है? So कहने से there will be gaseous exchange across the wall of the air sac. So should it be thick or thin?
Thin.
So which epithelium is very thin? Squamous epithelium. It will allow easy diffusion.
Yes.
Let's continue.
Yes.
Then third, blood capillary बच्चा. Blood capillaries, artery, capillaries, veins. Yes. सुना नहीं सुना तो भी yes. Do you see green cells, बच्चा?
Yes.
What is it? Squamous epithelium. And when it is lining the blood capillaries, it is called endothelium. What do you call it?
Epithelium.
That is the inner lining of your blood vessels. And the fourth and the important location is the mesothelium. क्या दोस्तों?
Mesothelium.
Does anybody know what is mesothelium? No? Okay. हाँ. ब्लड वेसल्स, ब्लड कैपिलरी में क्या काम है उसका बच्चा? कि इसके थ्रू एक्सचेंज ऑफ न्यूट्रिएंट्स होगा. गैसेस भी, न्यूट्रिएंट्स भी, वेस्ट भी सेल उसके अंदर के थ्रू पास करेगा. डोंट यू थिंक इट शुड अलाउ द मूवमेंट? ओके. नाउ ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस इंपॉर्टेंट कांसेप्ट. आओ चलो हम जगह बनाएंगे. हाँ, वो कम जगह में रहने की आदत है हम लोग बॉम्बे वाले बच्चों, है ना? ठीक है. चौथी सीट पे बैठे हो कभी? ट्रेन में कभी चौथी सीट पे बैठे हो? नहीं ना, हम लोग को आदत है. ध्यान दे. काश थे. ठीक है चलो कोई बात. कहाँ था? हाँ कभी लेके जाऊंगा तुम लोग को, बिठाऊंगा चौथी. नीट के बाद केईएम में एडमिशन देना है मेरे को तुम लोग को. केईएम कहाँ पे लोकेटेड है बताओ? मुंबई में प्रॉपर. तब मैं खुद लेके जाएगा तुम लोग को केईएम. ओके. वो भी मेरी गाड़ी में नहीं, ट्रेन में. इतना बड़ा गाड़ी में लेके जाएगा, वो भी चौथी सीट पे. ओके. ताकि तुम लोगों को भी लगे आज इतना बड़ा डॉक्टर बन रहा हूँ, चौथी सीट पे गया मैं वहाँ.
आपने स्ट्रेचेबल लंग्स भी स्ट्रेच होते हैं, फिर एयर सैक्स भी स्ट्रेच होते हैं ना. एयर
दे आर बट नॉट एज मच. विल टॉक अबाउट द लंग्स का जब एनाटॉमी ना तो पता चलेगा. सी गाइस, ये कौन है? इंसान है. अपने हर लेक्चर में आ ही जाता है ये कहीं ना कहीं. हाँ छोड़ता नहीं अपना साथ. Do you see this part बच्चों?
Yes.
That will be the outer body wall. क्या बोले इसको? Outer body wall. सुना ना मैंने क्या बोला?
Yes.
ये बाहर का body wall. Outer
Body
wall. OBW. Outer body wall. This outer body wall is also called as outer tube. क्या बोले उसको?
Outer tube.
Just like that, you have one more tube with the mouth, the food pipe, stomach, small intestine, and the large intestine. So tell me how many tubes are there?
Two.
Outer tube,
Inner tube.
and this tube will be called as the
Inner tube.
आया ना बच्चा?
Yes.
So who is the outer tube? Body wall.
Body wall.
Who is the inner tube? Elementary canal. And do you see a space between the two tubes?
Yes.
पक्का?
Yes.
ये स्पेस की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं. ये वाला. अच्छा, it is called adult coelom. है शब्द है ना बोलोगे? हाँ? What is it called? Adult coelom. समझ adult coelom?
Yes.
पक्का.
Yes.
And this adult coelom is lined by epithelium. Oh, it's lined by,
Epithelium.
and this epithelium is called mesothelium. क्या होता है उसको?
Mesothelium.
Mesothelium. ठीक है? And inside the mesothelium, there are organs. These organs are called visceral organs. क्या होता है उसको?
Visceral.
समझ लो?
Yes.
बेसिक ह्यूमन बायोलॉजी समझा रहा हूँ. डॉक्टर नहीं बन रहा है तुम लोग. ठीक है? बेसिक फाउंडेशन है. 2 2 का 4 है बायो का ये विजुअल ऑर्गन है.
Yes.
ये विजुअल ऑर्गन के ऊपर एक और एपिथेलियम देखा ये वाला.
Yes.
उसको बोलते हैं इनर पैराइटल लेयर. सॉरी, इनर विसरल लेयर. क्या बोलते हैं उसको? इनर विसरल लेयर. अरेंजमेंट समझो. ये बाहर का ट्यूब है.
Yes.
ये अंदर का ट्यूब है.
Yes.
दोनों ट्यूब के बीच के स्पेस को क्या बोलेंगे? अडल्ट सीलम. अडल्ट सीलम की मेम्ब्रेन कौन है बच्चा? स्क्वामस एपिथेलियम, जिसको बोलते हैं मेसोथेलियम. उसके अंदर जो ऑर्गन्स है उसको क्या बोलेंगे बच्चा? विसरल ऑर्गन्स. और ये विसरल ऑर्गन्स के ऊपर की लाइनिंग कौन है बच्चों लोग? इनर विसरल लेयर. दैट इज द मेसोथेलियम इज आल्सो समटाइम्स कॉल्ड एज आउटर पैराइटल लेयर. क्या होता है उसको? देखो, अंडरस्टैंड दिस मैन. ये बैक दे जरा मेरे को. दे ऐसे देखो लास्ट. ये ह्यूमन बॉडी है. हमने उसको कट कर दिया, ओपन कर दिया उसको. तो डू यू सी दिस स्पेस?
Yes.
दिस इज कॉल्ड द एडल्ट सीलम, बॉडी कैविटी. आया ना? ये कौन है? ऑर्गन है. इसका नाम है विसरल ऑर्गन. अच्छा, बारिश का मौसम चला ना, तो मैंने सबसे पहले एक प्लास्टिक का थैली डाल दिया एडल्ट सीलम में. वो कौन है? मेसोथेलियम. फिर एक बुक लिया. बुक कौन सा ऑर्गन है? अच्छा, उसको डालने के लिए उसके ऊपर एक ब्राउन कवर चढ़ा दिया. तो ब्राउन कवर कौन है? इनर पैराइटल, सॉरी, इनर विसरल. इनर. तो ये ऑर्गन कौन है? बुक है ना वो. उसके ऊपर वो ब्राउन कवर कौन है? इनर. उसको किसके अंदर डाला मैंने? मेसोथेलियम, प्लास्टिक की थैली. फिर उसको किसके अंदर डाल दिया? समझा? जो भी ऑर्गन सीलम में होते हैं उनको बोलते हैं विसरल ऑर्गन्स. विसरल ऑर्गन्स जैसे लिवर वगैरह. These are examples of what? Visceral. Viscerana nahi na? Next lecture बंदो viscerana. Everybody.
Yes.
So what are the different locations where the squamous epithelium is present? Mobiles capsule. अगर मोबाइल ऐप के हाथ में वो. Okay. Don't keep mobile on the phone. It should mobile on the desk. It should be inside the bag. बैग में होना चाहिए मोबाइल. अभी सबका मोबाइल बैग में है?
Yes.
नहीं है तो रख दो. कहाँ है मोबाइल? बैग में रखने का. ठीक है? क्लियर एवरीबॉडी?
Yes.
एक दो तोड़ चुका हूं इसके लिए, आई डोंट वांट दैट टू हैपन हियर। तो कहां था मैं? सारे इक्वेशन समझ में आए सबको?
Yes.
What would be the probable function, बच्चों लोग? Number 1, yes, diffusion of air. That is diffusion of air, diffusion of gases. यहाँ पे diffusion of nutrients. तो सब functions को मिला के मैं बोलूँगा it forms a diffusion boundary. क्या बोला मैंने? It forms a
Diffusion boundary.
समझ में आया? जिसके थ्रू gaseous exchange होता है, जिसके थ्रू nutrients का exchange होता है। याद रखना है ये, घर पे आके एक्टिवली रिकॉल करना है कि डिफ्यूजन बाउंड्री मतलब क्या? एक्सचेंज ऑफ गैसेस, एक्सचेंज ऑफ न्यूट्रिएंट्स। It is then also the Bowman's capsule, so can I say it also helps in filtration?
Yes.
And in certain cases also helps in what? Protection. Did you get it, everybody?
Yes.
So epithelial tissue, ये छोटा सा क्लासिफिकेशन याद रहेगा ना?
Yes.
The epithelial tissue is of how many types?
Two.
Simple and compound. Simple is single layer or multi layer?
Single layer.
और फिर उसके अलग-अलग टाइप्स है, टक 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 टक।
Yes.
फिर सिंपल स्क्वामस स्टार्ट किया हम लोगों ने,
Yes.
उसका हिस्टोलॉजी बताया,
Yes.
उसको पेवमेंट बोला यार, पेवमेंट।
Yes.
क्यों? फुटपाथ पे रहता है वो। फिर सिंपल है यार ये। हाँ, कॉपी डाउन करो फिर उसको।